Good afternoon. Thank you for creating time for us. You are in time for the Lunchtime News. A very warm welcome to the broadcast. My name is Irene Muchuma. It is the first day in the month of August 2023. And so who will be the next DPP? The interviews are underway. My colleague Giverson Maina is on that bit. But for now, let's interact on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. President William Ruto has ordered members of his executive, who includes cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries, and who reported late at State House for the performance contract signing, to explain in writing. The president cautioned the officers against using flimsy excuses, urging them to take their performance contract seriously. His sentiments were echoed by his deputy Rigathi Gachagua and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who urged officers in question to put up their game in timekeeping.
Your Excellency, today's ceremony marks a key milestone for our administration. The implementation of the performance contracts will ensure that the commitments that you made to our people are realized.
And sometimes I wonder, why do you have to honor every invitation that you have been given to every country? Your Excellency, at times we have tried to hold cabinet committees, we can't. 5, 6, 7, 8 ministers are out of the country. Some change clothes at the airport from one country to another. That is the truth. Why can't you regulate yourself? If the president was to travel and honor every invitation, he will be out of this country the whole year. You just have to decide what is useful, and other things you can leave to our ambassadors out of the country. Please let the president not limit your travel. Just be responsible. You have a work to do, and the work is here in Kenya. Rais amekaa, you work for him, he has arrived before you. I don't understand. I don't know how you plan, but hata kama iko traffic jam, hii traffic jam haijakuja Kenya leo, inajulikana tangu zamani. Mimi nilifika hapa saa 1:30, PM alifika hapa saa 1:30, na mkutano ulikuwa ya saa 3. Akuja kwa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, who has given us a job, who is very busy. Wewe utachelewa ukiwa wapi?
People resort to the old incompetent excuses that there was traffic for them not to be in a public, the most important public function. We have a job because we have a contract. If you cannot keep time with your employer, you have basically dismissed yourself. I mean, it's just as simple as that. So, for those who came late, who are members of the executive, I will be expecting a written explanation, and it should not include matters of traffic, on why they do not take these performance contracts seriously. Because if you do not take this performance contracting seriously, it means we do not take the contract with the people of Kenya on performance seriously. And that can be a very serious indictment on anybody.
All right, 15 candidates were shortlisted for the position of the Director of Public Prosecution early last month, and today 3 of them are facing the selection panel. We are crossing live to Giverson Maina to give us the latest updates. Giverson, good afternoon.
In the middle of Kenya's capital, Nairobi, along Harambee, where the interviews for the position of the Director of Public Prosecutions is ongoing. This is the battle to replace Nordin Haji, who is now Director General at the National Intelligence Service. And so far, 3 candidates have been interviewed, or rather 3 candidates, or rather 2 candidates have been interviewed. The third candidate is actually facing the selection panel. And the first person to be interviewed early in the morning, one Thomas Letangule, KBC commissioner, and of course number two was
saying the selection panel this as they sought to get the next DPP. Among the candidates include lawyer Dunston Omari and also Advocate Taib Ali Tali. But before we get to that, let's find out what is making headlines this afternoon. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says that the national government is ready to work with all stakeholders from different sectors in the country for the development of the country. Speaking during a late-night dinner at the Bomas of Kenya in Nairobi when he met a delegation from Kitui County, Gachagua said the national government is set to allocate more funds to counties in order to improve local services and infrastructure. The event, which was organized by Tourism Cabinet Secretary Penina Malonza, so businessmen, politicians and stakeholders from Kitui County attend.
Wanaelewa mambo ya barabara. I make an appointment for you. Mwende mkae na waziri anaitwa Muchuma muongee mambo ya barabara. I want you to make another committee of 8 people, water engineers with the people nani, ni tegeneze appointment, mwende mkae na Alice Wahome. Mumeongea mambo ya dengu na nini na kilimo, another committee of 8 people, professionals. Because sasa hamuna wabunge ya kufuata mambo yanu. So it is you, na mimi nitamsaidia. Tutasaidiana na hao CS. So another committee ya agriculture mkae na Mithika Lintore. Mumesema mambo ya huduma center. Another committee tupange mkae na Aisha Jumwa. Na nitafuatilia. Si ndio? So that we start moving.
One county had no gate, and that was Kitui County, the county I come from. Your Excellency, I came to you and I asked whether I can start a gate at Kasala in Kitui County, and you granted permission, and that gate works have already started this week, and you will come to commission it.
All right, let's get back to Channel 1's Giverson Maina, who is on standby to give us the latest developments. This, as 15 candidates were shortlisted for the position of DPP early last month, and today we are having a number of them facing the panel in the county of Nairobi. Giverson, good afternoon once again.
Now we are coming to live from this commission headquarters along Arambe Avenue in the interviews for the position of Director of Public Prosecution is being held, and of course that selection panel is being led by Solicitor General One Shadrach Mose and other members of that selection panel being Kotu Secretary General, that is one Francis Atoli. Of course, other members of this DPP selection panel is the EACC Chief Executive Officer, One, and the other person being Public Service Principal Secretary Mary Kimonye, and others are Richard Onsongo and of course Bush Obocha. And of course 15 candidates are battling to replace Wanudin Haji, who is now the NIS Director General. And of course the interviews have been going on since morning, but only 2 of them have been able to complete that interview. That candidate is currently facing that selection panel. And of course earlier in the morning they started with the interview of one Thomas Letangule. Letangule is the commissioner. And of course, the second person who was able to face that the DPP selection panel is one Jacinta Nyaboke Nyamosi. And Nyamosi is the prosecutor who ably prosecuted the case of one Willie Paul Kimani, the lawyer who was killed by, among other convicts, being 2 policemen, and of course, or rather 3 policemen, and of course 1 police in the police. And of course, the third person is Victor Vinya Mule. And before I even go on, Nyamosi is also the assistant deputy DPP. Of course, the third person who is facing the DPP selection panel right now is one Victor Vinya Mule. And Mule is also a deputy director at the office of the deputy, or rather at the ODPP. And of course, that person who will be the fourth person who will face that panel is one Taib Ali Twaib. These are the expected people late in the day. And of course, one Tabitha Wanyama Oyua, and of course, David Kiplagat, Ruto Tor, and of course we're also expecting the seventh person to close these interviews by the end of close business today, being Dunstan Omari Mogoka. This is a renowned lawyer in the country, and of course a television panelist who was crisscrossing your television channels from day to day. And of course, being the 15 candidates who are facing this election panel, this exercise is expected to go on up to tomorrow. Of course, now the selection panel will have to conduct the second batch of these interviews by tomorrow. So today is quite intense activity, and of course tomorrow we'll also expect candidates to be interviewed by this selection panel that is being led by Solicitor Shadrach Mose. And as I told you, the 15 candidates are battling to replace the former director of the former DPP, rather one Nordin Haji, who is now the NIS Director General. Of course, we keep on here to just ensure we bring you these pictures in our subsequent bulletin at about 7, of course, and also even at 9 p.m. So far, there's not so much, but we're also expecting to speak to these candidates once they're out of that room, the selection room, just to speak to them and have a feeling of how the experience has been during the interviews. But also, just to inform you, is that the interviews are closed door, and because we spoke to one of the officials, they are saying that it's being held, at a closed door because the questions are similar, and so they don't want to, give undue advantage to the candidates who are still coming in for interviews. Back to in studio.
Thank you, Giverson. Good to have you. Now to the county of Kilifi. The area governor Gideon Mung'aro has made changes in his cabinet following the demise of one of his chief officers. In the new changes, the governor has reshuffled his county executive committee members. Herbert George has been appointed in acting capacity chief officer for fisheries and blue economy, replacing Rehab Karisa, who was reportedly murdered by her house help a week ago.
Zile nafasi ambazo ziko wazi baadaye itajazwa, kwa sababu hatuwezi kujaza nafasi hiyo wakati tunaomboleza. Bado tunaomboleza mwenzetu. Wacha yeye ashikilie hapo, wakati ukifika tutafanya utaratibu nao. This executive order is intended to provide guidance to the executive committee members and other county government officials on the conduct of county government business in the management of the ministries and departments assigned. I hereby direct comprehensive audit and inspection of all of the delayed projects, and where contractors are found to have delayed without any responsible cause, such contracts will be terminated.
Rangers who paid the ultimate prize in the line of duty were honored as Kenya joined the world in celebrating the World Rangers Day. From one county to another, the heroic men and women in boots were celebrated with a reduction in poaching attributed to their good work. Here is how the day was celebrated around the country.
During the celebrations to mark World Ranger Day in the county of Isiolo, Kenya Wildlife Services Senior Assistant Director in charge of Eastern Conservation, Area Joseph Sarara, said the region has made huge strides in the fight against poachers despite difficult working conditions.
When we talk of the Isiolo, Samburu, Mount Kenya ecosystem, our elephants are on the increase.
The day is a chance to recognize their efforts and celebrate their commitment in protecting and preserving vulnerable wildlife, habitats and ecosystems across the world.
In Malindi, KWS Acting Director General Dr. Erastus Kanga assured game rangers of their welfare and that of their families as they carry out their duties.
This includes a variety of benefits such as housing, extraneous allowances, medical, capacity building, and encouraging our rangers to participate in extracurricular activities.
And in Narok, Governor Patrick Ntutu promised to review the promotion of the rangers to ensure that the right rangers get promoted.
The review of those who have been promoted and has not been implemented.
In Embu County, stakeholders in wildlife environment conservation have reiterated the importance of public-private partnerships to maximize the gains from natural resources.
Sasa inakuwaje mimi nakufanyia kazi ulionipa, lakini utoke hapo uanze kunitoa uhai? Kwa sababu gani? Binafsi, mtu binafsi. Njaa yako peke yake inataka kumaliza njaa ya umma mzima.
Speaking during World Rangers Day by officers from the mountain region that was celebrated at the Muir National Reserve, the stakeholders made a passionate appeal to communities surrounding the parks and reserves to actively engage in conservation matters. Yusufar reporting for Lunchtime News.
The retirement age in Kenya is pegged at 60. Mary Waithera, a 71-year-old granny from Kiambu County, is however defying this. Waithera, who has been a stone crusher since 1973 to date, says with a little support, she can offer solution to unemployment of the youth in her region. Here is Waithera's story told through the eyes of Pauline Nasimio.
In the outskirts of Kiambu County, we meet Mary Waithera. When she's not fetching firewood, she's spotted with a huge shopping bag, not for shopping, but for carrying stones. The over 70-year-old jovial granny says she started crushing stones for ballast in 1973 after being introduced to the craft by her late husband. Her land, she says, has a quarry, but she has to break them manually due to lack of licensing. Stone crushing has been a source of income for her family over the years.
Mzee wangu alibudizia hii kazi ya mawe. Nasaonizia watu wakikuja manasoma na hii kazi.
Waithera says she can be able to employ over 100 jobless youths in her quarry with the support of the government.
Hiyo serikali kuja niweka nini kwa jamii. Hii kazi ninaona watu wa kununua hakuna.
Serikali ikuje inue kama ni hadi kwa huyu shosho. Imsaidia tu kutoa mawe ni mingi na tunaona ni jiwe lile mzuri kabisa.
Waithera has been able to build a home from the proceeds of the quarry. Mary Wambui, a community health promoter who visits Waithera from time to time, said that Waithera does not enjoy the cash transfer for the elderly since her late husband was the one receiving the money. She has called on the young jobless people not to be selective in the job market and embrace any job that are forthcoming.
Mtu aache kutegemea ati nitapata kazi ama aache kusema hakuna kazi. Bora tu utoke, hata kaa uko kwa plot, toka uanze kufulia watu nguo, na hiyo kazi itakusustain.
Pauline Nasimir for Lunchtime News.
Thank you, Nasimiu, for that bit, very encouraging item. The Judicial Department in Turkana West, in collaboration with non-governmental organizations in Kakuma, has brought together street children and children affected by drug abuse to sensitize them on the importance of formal education. Take a look.
The meeting was held at Towo Kayeni Children's Home. Here, parents expressed concerns about the challenges of raising school fees, which hindered their children's attendance in school.
Mimi mwenyewe nilikuwa naomba serikali kama inawezekana kwamba kuja tusaidia tupeleke shuleni, lakini sasa ile miliona Mungu ametimiza ahadi yake.
During the meeting, Eliud Emoni, Kakuma's ward representative, commended the initiative sensitizing the community on the importance of formal education.
Na kwa leo tumewatoa watoto kwenye streets. Na hiyo ni kuna wengi ambao pia wanateseka, na tutahakikisha kwa watoto wamepelekwa shule, na wenye wana wazazi tutawapeleka nyumbani.
Judge Charles Mayamba said this is only the beginning of an exercise expected to spread countrywide and ensure all children of school-going age are in school.
Pia wajibike kwa kazi yao kama wazazi. Hauwezi tu ukazaa mtoto ukaachia serikali. Serikali iko na majukumu yake, na wewe pia mzazi uko na majukumu yako.
John Junge for Lunchtime News.
Fisher folks at Luanda Konyango Beach in Migori County are counting losses following the increase of water hyacinth weeds interfering with the breeding grounds for fish. Nelson Onyango, a fisherman at the beach, says they face challenges navigating their boats through the weeds, resulting in losses as fish is perishable commodity. Additionally, they are at risk of attacks from snakes, crocodiles, hippos, which are obscured by the plants. They are now appealing to the national and county government to assist them tackle the water hyacinth problem to unravel opportunities available in the shift to the blue economy.
Sometimes if you go to fishing, it is very difficult to pass through. If you after you've got something in the boat, it is very difficult to pass through, so it end up going bad before even you sell it to your customer. So we are just asking our leaders to help us.
Shida tena nyingine hapa ya mnyama aina ya hippopotamus, yani kiboko, inatusumbua hapa sana tunapotoka midamida wa usiku kwenda kuvua samaki.
6 Chinese nationals were presented before a Vihiga court on charges of illegal mining. The group, consisting of 1 woman and 5 men, are said to have been engaging in mining activities in Kitigu area without a valid license. Chief Magistrate Samson Ongeri, in his ruling, directed 2 of the accused be released on a 1 million shilling cash bail or 2 Kenyan citizens as sureties, each valued at 2 million shillings. The remaining 4 will remain in custody as their travel documents are in question.
Yes, they will remain in custody because of their immigration status. The 2 Kenyan sureties of a bond of Kenya shillings 2 million each. They shall each deposit their passports in this court. They shall each be released on a cash bail of Kenya shillings 1 million. For order that the first, the second, third, and fourth accused will remain in custody until the matter is determined. It therefore becomes difficult for the court to release suspects whose their migration status are in question.
Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. We are taking our first commercial break. We'll be back with more, including business and sports. Stay with us.
Watu wa Mai Mahiu mupo. Stesheni uipendayo ya Shoro FM imekuandalia tamasha kali ya Mugithi Night Jumamosi tarehe 5 Agosti mwaka huu hapo VIP Nest Lounge Mai Mahiu. Karabi na bendi yake wataporomosha burudani kabambe kuanzia saa 2 za usiku hadi che. Ma-MC wetu wa nguvu Mwana Mwende, Joseph Njenga na makoha wa vioja mahakamani wamewatayarishia vichekesho kemkema na zawadi kocho kocho za kushindaniwa. Mafansu wa Naivasha na Mai Mahiu mnaombwa kujitokeza tujumuike pamoja kupiga sherehe. Hii itakuwa kali sana.
Ulitoka vipi bila kuniambia wewe?
Yaani kutoka siku zote leo ni mbaya. Yaani si vile ninavyomfahamu.
Unifahamu wewe? Unifahamu kabisa? Sikujui. Kingo huyu mtu nani? Mimi peke yangu ndio jinamizi kwenye ile nyumba.
Yaani mtoto jinsi unavyong'ara. Unameremeta. Mtoto kubambamu.
Ni kwaje mbona hali ya mama imebadilika ghafla namna hii?
Welcome back. You're watching the Lunchtime News. Now, over 300 Kisii County employees have petitioned Governor Simba Arati to intervene over non-payment of their salaries. The employees enlisted into the county government public service in April 2022 say the situation has caused serious financial strain, making it difficult for them to sustain themselves and their families.
The frustrated civil servants drawn from various departments, including the physically challenged persons, describe the strains they have been undergoing due to non-payment of their salaries.
Mimi ni mtu nataka mtu wa kunitembeza. Na huyu mtu gaida wangu lazima nimulipe. Mimi ni mtu naishi kwa rental house. Sasa imefikia mahali siwezi weza kulipa nyumba, siwezi weza kulipa mtu wangu wa kutembea. Na mimi niliajiriwa, nimepewa appointment letter.
We have children who are in schools, but here we are. Every now and again we cry, no help.
They further claimed efforts to engage the governor, Simba Arati, over the issue has failed.
We met our Excellency the Governor Simba Arati in the month of May. He promised that he was going to process our salaries and our PF numbers before the end of May. We have been patient enough. We have waited for the processes. Nothing has been started.
Tumejaribu lakini kufikia saa hii sasa we want him to come. Akuja tueleze ndio from there sasa tuweze kuchukua hatua yenye tunataka.
The Kisii County employees have now called on the governor to intervene on the matter. Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
Now, it is a sigh of relief to the residents of Segera Ward in Laikipia County following the official opening of a new health clinic constructed by a well-wisher in the area. The Kathleen O'Hara Community Health Clinic, founded by Jess Danforth in honor of her late friend Kathleen, who succumbed to cancer, will be offering different medical services for free, hence reducing the cost of traveling and medical services incurred by the residents. Laikipia Deputy Governor Ruben Kamuri says the county targets to increase the health facilities from the current 92 to 115.
We have partners, international partners, and we're going to be offering healthcare to the community. So this is outpatient to start, and soon we'll be expanding to inpatient. And our hope is to take this model, as well as all of our other projects throughout Nanyuki, and replicate them around.
All Laikipians should access healthcare within a span of 4 kilometers. 4 kilometers, kila mtu anaweza enda kwa hospitali, aweze kupata matibabu yake na ahudumiwe vizuri.
Programs to engage students, parents and teachers to help curb indiscipline cases in schools, speaking to the media in his office after distributing 18 million shillings worth of bursary to 3,000 students drawn from colleges and universities. Chonga said schools' unrest can only be controlled if parents and teachers change the approach of addressing students' warrants behaviors. Chonga cited broken communication as another contributing factor to indiscipline.
Ukichunguza sana haswa kwa upande wa Kilifi South, utovu wa nidhamu unakuja na issues mara nyingi to do with the mitihani ile ambayo kwamba wanatakana kukaa kuifanya. Lakini iwapo kwamba nitaweza kukaa na wazazi na hao wanafunzi one on one, nafikiria pressure kama hizi zitaweza kufichuka na tuweze kupata suluhu
ambaye ataonyesha ya kwamba hana discipline, basi hata tunaweza tukakatizia kama ni scholarship, kwa sababu tunatoa scholarships kwa watoto wote ambao wanaenda national schools.
Information technology has rapidly advanced over the years, with key developments being the emergence of social media. However, digital spaces have come with a fair share of the good, the bad and the ugly side. Online gender-based violence is among emerging vices, with female media personalities bearing the greatest brunt. Here now is Sheila Yogo, who interacted with some of the victims of social media trolls.
Meet Karen Kibet, a sports news anchor at Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Behind her laughter and cheerful spirit, she has experienced a fair share of online gender-based violence.
I was new on TV and I was making my debut. People were like, "You don't have money, umevaa nguo inakaa gunia." And I remember that dress was so beautiful.
The situation became worse, affecting her social life.
I'm not married. A certain man was trying to tune me. Then he Googles my name. Then he sees Karen is dating so a tycoon, blah, 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 blah. And it became an issue to him. Why are you dating so-and-so? And here you are telling me you are single. Then he sends me screenshots. I'm like, who is this? What is this? I don't know this person. No, it never got anywhere.
The trolling affected her mentally. She did not seek professional counseling, but sought solace from her family. Association of Media Women in Kenya, in partnership with other members, has support for media women in Kenya.
Within the association, you'll find media practitioners who have a law background, who have different backgrounds, or rather information on different things. So you will get to have lawyers speak to you and tell you about your rights.
Kibet had a sports YouTube channel, but her guests became victims of cyberbullying.
Her name is Inside Sports.
The people I brought, now they had 1 or 2, 3 things to say about the guests. Still, it's my show.
Her acquaintances were not spared either.
I went to cover the All-African Games in Morocco. Now they said that the president of the Sports Journalists Association chose Karen because Karen is the girlfriend, and it was actually published that he's going to sleep with us.
Computer Misuse and Cyber Arms Act of 2018. So this is the only statute that we have in Kenya right now that protects victims. It is a statute that came because of these issues.
Online, gender-based violence does not discriminate the high and the mighty.
We also what happened to our CJ. For 3-4 months, there was a lot of her being trolled, being called names. Some even led to hate speech. Some even led to our family. And no one did anything.
Women politicians are not spared either.
There's another one that is gaining a lot of momentum in this country, whereby we are calling it a way of a partner or a spouse releasing photos, intimate photos of a partner.
FIDA, with the help of established authorities, has managed to report the perpetrators to police and helped the victims to get therapy.
For example, we had to use the relevant commissions of data privacy to help us. We had to report to the police. We had to call the victims. Some of them needed a bit of therapy.
FIDA also partners with AMWIC to protect women in media. Men too have experienced online gender-based violence, but women are the most affected.
Our whole president shutting his Twitter account because he couldn't handle his citizens. You know, it's crazy.
If you are found guilty of online violence, you can be sentenced for imprisonment for 20 years and a fine of 1 million Kenya shillings. The FIDA Vice Chairperson, Christine Kungu, urges victims of online abuse not to stay silent.
But if you stay silent, it will then make you feel, or rather you make the perpetrator feel like they have won. So I think for me is reporting, so being aware and then reporting.
Most perpetrators go unpunished, contributing to the rising cases of cyberbullying.
If today I am affected on digital platforms, I'm cyberbullied, and then I walk to a police station and say that I was cyberbullied, something happened to me, what's the first reaction that I'd get from them? But what we generally see is, what were you wearing? What kind of photo did you post? They'll even laugh about it. But this is something that is psychologically affecting you, which affects your ability to execute your mandates as a journalist or a media practitioner in general.
There are relevant establishments, relevant authorities that have been established, and they are paid to do this work. But why are they not doing anything?
According to the UNESCO report of 2022, in collaboration with ICFJ, 73% of media women globally have experienced online gender-based violence.
Private life is their private life. They should not be trolled. They should not be made to feel like they are less Kenyans, or their private life is public life. So that is part of sexual online harassment.
As information and communication technologies continue to advance, social media platforms have threatened the safety of journalism and women journalists. Sheila Kayaro-Yogo reporting for KBC in Nairobi.
The National Land Commission says land left behind by receding water bodies has been identified to be a source of controversy and concern in the country. This emerged during the ongoing Environment and Land Court Judges Annual Conference in Naivasha, where stakeholders noted an increase in environmental cases. Speaking during the conference, NLC Chairman Gersom Otachi identified Malindi and Lamu as hard-hit areas by the receding water bodies, noting that there was confusion as to whether land left behind was private or public. On his part, NEMA Director General Mamo expressed his concern over the continued pollution of the Nairobi River by private and government entities.
Imewekwa fence, sasa fence imetolewa, sasa shamba ni yetu, tumejishikia shamba, tumerudishiwa na Mungu na koti imeamua. Sasa tumeshukuru Mungu, sasa mtu sasa kama ni mbeleni hata singelala kwangu leo. Kwa sababu sasa ni kuongea hivyo, sasa ni kama kurusha mawe polisi. Na sasa ni furaha tele.
Shamba tunabata zaidi ya miaka 9, miaka 29, 1995. Ndio tulianza kazi ya hii shamba. Mpaka wa sasa ni miaka mingapi?
Koti iliamuru shamba ni ya wazee wale walibatiwa na Musungu wana Korobel. Kwa maana taito yetu alitupatia. Hiyo ndio ilitoa hii shamba.
Ushahidi uliotolewa kotini, wataalamu waliofika kotini, masavea, maregistrar wa hii nchi, wengine walitoka Nairobi, makaratasi yalipekuliwa na ikadhihirishwa ya kwamba kwa ukweli shamba 1004 lilikuwa la wazee waliojiita Ndevethi, na Kip Kulei hana haki yoyote, hana stakabadhi yoyote kwa sababu ya hii shamba.
Thank Thank you for staying with us. Welcome to the world of business. Inflation dropped to a 13-month low in July despite an increase in fuel prices on account of new taxes on the commodity. The July statistics by the Kenya Bureau of Standards show that inflation was recorded at 7.3% from 7.9% in June, which is within the government's target of below 7.5%. KBS says the reduction was boosted by a reduction in housing, water, electricity and gas. The Central Bank of Kenya's preferred inflation band stands at between 2.5% to 7.5% in the medium term. Last month, CBK's Monetary Policy Committee raised its benchmark lending rate to 10.5% from 9.5% to ease pressure on lending. According to KNBS, the largest year-on-year decline was reported on LPG at 10.1%, followed by tomatoes at 9.8%, while transport posted the highest increase at 40%. The Director of Livestock Policy has raised concerns over the low number of veterinarians. Wanga told the National Assembly Committee on Delegated Legislation that half of veterinaries in Kenya are due to retire within 2 years, hence the need to fast-track employment of officers.
Has been exporting live livestock to the Middle East as it scouts for more markets. However, the Ministry of Agriculture says exports to lucrative markets such as Europe and United States will remain a pipe dream if the number of veterinarians is not increased.
A little, not systematic employment the way you do for military and other offices. It is occasional. Like the last lot were employed in 2011. And a few, they could not cover the whole country.
We are struggling to export our meat and meat products into lucrative markets where the standards are very stringent. So if these standards are not watched and observed, then we are going to have a big challenge.
He says this could compromise the quality of meat. The shortage of veterinaries is likely to worsen in the next 2 years.
Almost 3/4 of the technical staff in the government now, they'll be retiring. So we are going to have a very big challenge in the next 2-3 years.
The first resources people think about are livestock resources. So if we don't take care of this area, we have a major challenge on our hands.
To strengthen the livestock value chain, plans are underway to anchor the Veterinary Council in law to regulate animal medicine.
Kipsigis Highlands Multi-Purpose Cooperative Society has been identified by Finlay's, a multinational tea company, as a locally owned cooperative, which will be the sole beneficiary of 15% of its shares, valued at 6 billion shillings. The decision comes after the multinational decided to sell the remaining 85% of its shares to Sri Lankan firm Brown's Investment PLC, following a strategic decision aimed at focusing more on the tea and coffee extract businesses and moving away from the leaf-growing operations in the country.
Earlier in the month of May, tea multinational James Finlay Limited decided to bow out of the Kenyan market in a deal that saw Sri Lankan company Brown's Investment PLC carry on its operations. In deciding on the new investor, the firm noted that their main concern was to ensure that the business would continue to be successful, benefiting the local staff and community. Finlay started talks with Kipsigis Highlands Multipurpose Cooperative, aimed at ceding 15% of its shares in James Finlay to the farmers-owned cooperative society.
Our intention is to ensure broad representation of ownership across the community by offering everyone who is interested the opportunity to purchase these shares. These shares will be offered to the selected partner at a competitive value that reflects our appreciation of the long-standing support of the local community.
The sale of the 15% in James Finlay is valued at 6 billion shillings. Finlay announced that it was exiting the Kenyan tea and coffee growing business to focus on extraction. The sale will include all parts of James Finlay Kenya Limited, except the Salsa tea extraction facility, which will remain under Finlay's ownership and will continue to source leaf tea, timber, and other services directly from James Finlay Kenya.
Several consultative and negotiations meetings have been held between JFK, which is James Finlay, Browns, Kipsigis Islands, KH, with Sub-County Cooperative Officer, SCCO. Stakeholders, County Government of Kericho, County Government of Bomet, and the preferred most representative cooperative society to host the 15% is KH. KH means Kipsigis Islands.
The multinational had since introduced mechanization in their tea farms and estates in Kericho County, culminating in massive job losses for casual tea harvesting workers, a majority of whom were from the local community. Nduta Mokami for Lunchtime News.
Across the borders in the world of business, Toyota nearly doubled its operating profit in the first quarter, helped by increased sales and higher production volumes, as well as the tailwind from the weaker yen. Sales volumes across all regions increased compared to the same period a year earlier due to productivity improvements. Here now are the details of this and other stories making headlines across the globe.
Toyota, which is the world's top-selling automaker, says operating profit for the 3 months through June totaled 1.1 trillion yen, an increase of 94% from a year earlier. Toyota maintained its forecast for a 3.0 trillion yen profit for the current year, as the conditions it faced had not changed greatly from 3 months earlier. Toyota shares, which were up 1.15% just before the release of the earnings, extended their gains immediately after and were up 2.6% at 2,448 yen. Elsewhere, Australia's central bank held interest rates at 4.1% for a second straight month, saying past increases were working to cool demand, but retained a warning that some more tightening might be needed to curb inflation. The Reserve Bank of Australia largely left its economic forecast unchanged from the previous quarter, focusing headline inflation would slow to around 3.25% by the end of 2024 and be back within its 2% to 3% target range by late 2025. The Australian dollar extended earlier declines to be 0.9% lower at $0.6660, and 3-year bond futures rose 8 ticks to 96.22. Finally, manufacturing sector activities in India moderated for the second straight month in July as rates of expansion in output and new orders eased slightly. The seasonally adjusted S&P Global India Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index eased to 57.7 in July from 57.8 in June. Despite the fall, the Indian manufacturing sector maintained strong growth momentum at the start of the third quarter amid ongoing buoyant demand. Rates of expansion in output and new orders were only marginally softer than in June, with firms expanding their employment and purchasing activity accordingly.
And Gishugu Member of Parliament Gichimu Githinji has condemned increasing cases of tea hawking, which he accuses private businessmen of fueling to exploit smallholder farmers. Githinji says tea hawking is contributing to poor quality tea.
Sisi hatutakubali wale watu wanakuja kunyanyasa wakulima wetu wa majani chai. Na tumepata mwelekeo mzuri. Tumekuwa na coffee na tea conference pale Kericho juzi,
na tumekuja na mwelekeo mzuri ya vile mkulima wa majani chai atafaidika. Na huo mkondo umeanza. Vile tu umeanza hivi, kunao wamejitokeza kutafuta njia ya kuja kunyanyasa mkulima wa majani chai. Hilo jambo tumesema hatutalikubali kama viongozi. Tutapigana kwa haki ya mkulima na wale watu ambao wanakuja kuwanyanyasa.
Welcome to Channel 1 Sports. Kenya's Faki Amina Matha defeated Sibisi Lethokule of South Africa in the 52-54 kilograms at the ongoing AFBC Boxing Championship in Cameroon. Amina won the bout after the referee stopped the contest in session 3 of the tournament last evening.
In the women's 52-54 kilograms bouts, Faki Amina Matha had an easy time against Sibisi Lethokule, overpowering the South African and forcing the referee to stop the contest. Hassan Shafi Bakari was also at his very best to downfall Kiwel of Mauritius in the 51-54 kilograms category. In other contests, Wairimu Samuel Njau defeated Chota Mbiada of Cameroon on points in the men's 54-57 kilograms feather category. In the men's 92 kilograms plus category, Kenya's Ramogi Frederick lost to Kadi Morad of Algeria. The men's featherweight and lightweight divisions attracted the highest number of participants, each with 16 boxers. Winners of the championship will pocket $15,000, while the second and third placed boxers walk home with $10,000 and $5,000 respectively. For Lunchtime News, I am Faith Akinyi.
And thank you for your time. This marks the end of the latest updates from the newsroom. But for more news items, do log on to www.kbc.co.ke. My name is Irene Muchuma. On sign language interpretation is Brian Muraro. Good afternoon. God bless you.
Yes, Massive and Crew, if you love reggae and you're a reggae head, you know the place to be each and every Wednesday.
You gotta show